Welcome to the HealthSpark, Igniting Healthcare Management Change and Evolution. I'm your host, Dr. Raya. We're welcoming Allie Trimble Lozano. She is the best-selling author, former regional VP, market CEO, nurse leader, public speaker, hospital operations expert, leadership coach, and mother. So welcome, Allie, to the HealthSpark. I'm Dr. Raya.
Thank you so much for having me. I love all the names behind that because I have about that many personalities at this point.
It's important that I say all of it because I think it's important. But now, Allie, I want to talk about your book.
Yes.
Recently published a book. I think it was October 2024.
It was. It's kind of crazy. It's already been just 2 months, and yet it seems like it's been forever.
Excellent. So Allie just published a book, and it is called Airing Out Your Vagina, Being a Real Woman in an Unreal World. And so, Allie, what motivated you to write this book? And what's your key message for your readers, do you think?
Absolutely. So I think a few things. One, if I'm being totally brutally honest, I didn't initially intend to write a book. I started writing as a form of journaling, as a form of kind of healing myself, and figuring out or trying to figure out, again, who was I? I think often, and especially as women, we get lost in all of our roles. And so, who was Allie? Not mama, not CEO, not nurse, not boss, not coworker, not daughter, whatever it was. Who was I? And I think I had lost myself. Divorce happened, COVID happened, life changes occurred. And so it was really through journaling. Somebody had told me, actually several people had told me, including my professional therapist, licensed counselor, had said, you should try journaling. It'll really help you. And I remember thinking, how in the world is putting this junk on paper going to help anybody? But they were right and I was wrong. And I'm so grateful for it because it has helped me tremendously. But as I continued to write, and I would share little tiny pieces with friends or be like, oh my gosh, remember this, and send them a paragraph. And it resonated. And people started saying, oh my gosh, you should write a book. And so I really decided a little over a year ago that, you know what, I'm going to do this. And the goal behind it, so what I told myself is, it's time consuming, it's hard, it can be expensive. But what I said was, if I can help one woman feel a little less lonely, a little less batshit crazy, then mission accomplished. And, you shared in the beginning, best-selling author. Had you told me that when I started this, I would have laughed at you. And again, I thought it would be in some really weird, obscure, like, I don't know, gardening barefoot category or something like that. But it wasn't. It made best-selling author for Amazon 2024 in the category of women in business. And so the fact that it has resonated, the reviews, some have made me tear up, some have cracked me up laughing. But the idea that pretty much everyone, men included, that have read and given reviews or sent me feedback, something in there resonates with almost everybody.
Yeah.
So from my perspective, that was what I was looking to do. And so I'm thrilled that it was as well received as it was.
Yeah. So, I mean, I looked at it, I read the first chapter, I was looking at all the table of contents, I was looking at the reviews, and it's awesome. It's easy to read. It's super interesting. I think that the fact that you wrote it for yourself first is probably why it's so wildly successful. Because if you were writing it for other people only, or if you were writing it for like just monetary gain, or if you were writing it for just whatever reason, the fact that you wrote it for you, I think made all the difference.
I laugh, Audible is a huge thing. Everybody listens, right? Because we're driving all the time. And I crack up because so many people have said, oh my God, I read your book and it was like you were sitting there telling me your story. And then I have the other group that are like, hurry up and get it on Audible so that I can listen to your book. But I think you nailed it. And I think the fact that it was written in that tone. It was written as though I'm talking to you and kind of sharing my life with you. I
Mm.
remember laughing and telling somebody, oh my gosh, the words real and vulnerable and raw, like they don't even begin to explain what I share in this book.
Mm.
Um, and it was a balancing act. I really had to figure out, okay, what do I share and what don't I share? Right. It is so incredibly personal
Mm.
that I wanted to make sure I was sharing my personal and not necessarily other people's personal.
Yeah.
And so I took a lot of time and effort when I wrote it, and went back and edited it and edited some out, and then was told, don't edit out your tone. Don't edit yourself out of your book. And so I think that comment and that feedback really helped me figure out what to share and what not to share, and how to do it in as respectfully a way as possible,
Yeah.
while also being true to myself and true to the stories I shared.
Right. Well, and my next question was going to be like, how did you address misconceptions or stigmas around like women or like women's health or things that were personal to you? And maybe you just answered it.
Well, I think there's a lot in there. And I think the fact that it made it where it did in the category of women in business,
Mhm.
I want to be real careful how I say this, because I don't want it to come off as, I'm not a man hater and I'm not a woman hater.
Oh, sure.
I think both sexes serve a purpose, obviously, and bring a lot to the table. I think when it comes to building each other up and helping each other find opportunities, and really supporting other people and colleagues, I think men from a high ranking position perspective,
Mm.
maybe they had more years of experience because we're really fighting and have gotten into that space in the last 20 or so years. Maybe that's what it is, I don't know, but I think men support each other better. I think, if there's an opportunity at this company, you call your friend that works at that company. Y'all meet at the country club tonight with the VP of that company, and now, whoop, you got the job.
Yeah.
Women, in my experience, a lot of women tend to be much less helpful when it comes to things like that. Or I say they evaporate when you need, a leg up or a hand up, or, hey, let me introduce you. And I think that's starting to change.
Mhm.
I think women, you're a fantastic example of that.
Yeah.
A lot of the women here in El Paso that are part of Executive Forum and some of these other groups, they take it personally, right? It's, I'm here to help you get where you want to go. So where do you want to go?
Yeah.
And so I think for women, for me, it was putting that in the book. It was sharing the fact that, like, hey guys, we got to quit behaving like this. We got to quit shoving each other down, or, kicking each other in the back of the knee when it's your chance to talk, and figure out why men do that piece better.
Yeah.
Because I think the potential there is the sky's the limit. I mean, if you've got the support of the tribe around you, um, and you've got a message worth sharing, get out there and they're going to build you up. They're going to support you. And if they don't, that's probably not somebody you really wanted around you anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love
Yeah.
it. So my next question was, since its publication, what feedback have you received from readers? And I mean, if you look at the reviews, they're outstanding. The majority of them are fives. So you're looking at the reviews. Is that the only feedback you're getting from the book? Like, where else are you getting your feedback?
Sure. So one of the things with the digital age that's been fun is both my LinkedIn page, my Instagram page, even Facebook. People will read the book and they Google me and they find you and they'll shoot you a message. Those are my favorite because they had to put in the effort to go find you to do that, right? And I'm not going to sit here and pretend they have all been lovely.
Sure.
There's been a few that I went, oh, okay. And I've had some close people to me say, I read the book, I'm happy for you, I'm proud of you, not for me. And that's okay too. I knew that going into it. I mean, I encourage people to read it because I think the title, a lot of people are shied away from it because, oh my gosh, what's this about? But once they read it and realize it's actually a really funny story with my son, that had to do with both navigating conflict, how to be a mom, all of those things. Um, it really kind of changes, I think, the perception. But for me, the idea of being able to share so much of myself and then get the feedback that, oh my gosh, this cracked me up, or oh my gosh, this, I just sat there and sobbed. One of my favorite, and I'll tell you, and she actually went on and left a review as well, but somebody reached out to me and said, you know what, your book, she said, yes, it made me laugh. Yes, it made me cry. It was all of those things. But she said, but it helped me find a way to have a conversation with somebody in my family that I have been needing to have a conversation with for years. And we're now on the other side of that conversation. She read your book too. And it's really kind of helped us come together in a way that maybe we necessarily wouldn't have, and heal. And so to me, that's the biggest win. Wow. Yeah. And the fact that, the reviews and the feedback, there's young people that are reading this book. A friend of mine and I went, oh my gosh, but she read it to her 14-year-old daughter, 13-year-old daughter. And
Wow.
she said, I want her to learn that, this is real life.
Yeah.
And I'd rather her hear it from me, and she knows and respects you. But to know that there's, younger people reading this book, all the way up to women in their 70s and 80s have given feedback.
Oh,
And my favorite on that one, I'll tell you, was a nursing school professor. So when I was voted or received the accolade of getting the Gold Nugget Award for UTEP, that was huge for me.
yeah.
And it was a defining moment in my life, not just from a career perspective, but really from a personal perspective. I'd recently gone through a divorce. We were smack dab in the middle of COVID. And when I got the phone call, it was like, you're kidding me. Me?
Yeah.
Back to that. But it was amazing. And the woman that nominated me for that award initially was one of my nursing school professors.
Wow.
And I adored her. I just thought she's what I want to be when I grow up, when I was in nursing school.
Wow.
Um, so when she wrote me on LinkedIn after the book published, I thought, oh, I hope I haven't disappointed her. I hope she didn't read the book and not like it. I hope she's not upset. I hope all of this junk, right, was
Yeah.
going on in my head. And when I opened it, I immediately, Ginger, I started bawling because she said, I thought when you made hospital CEO and were doing the work that you've been doing all this time, that you had really made it. And she said, and I remember thinking, wow, I knew you were going to go places when you were in nursing school. And she said, but now, sister, now you're making it
Mm.
because this is you. This is your truth. And it's funny because, yeah, it's been a lot the last 2 months. It's been a whirlwind of activity, some desired and some not. But at the end of the day, I feel freer and I feel more me than I've ever felt in my life. And that was my response to her is, I was terrified to open this because I thought for sure you were going to be upset. You made me cry. Thank you so much for your support. And I love that because it reminded me get out of my own head from the perspective of, well, why me? So right back to the imposter syndrome and, who am I? All of those things that I'm still battling clearly.
Yeah.
But it really gave me the push to want to keep going and want to see, how else I can influence others to do the same.
Mhm. And so many of us are. So I'm so happy that you say that because we talk about that in grad school all the time, the impact of imposter syndrome. So I think the more that we say we have imposter syndrome,
Oh
the
my
better it
gosh.
is for other women, other men, other people to hear. Because without us saying it, people are afraid to say.
Sure.
So I'm so glad that's twice already I've heard you say it, which is great. So now that you've written the book, and you've got all these great reviews, people are responding to it very well. The majority of people are responding to it very well, which is honestly irrelevant because it was for you.
Me.
It was for you.
Yeah.
What do you have any future plans now to write any other books, or what are your thoughts?
So you will laugh. Many people have said, in fact, the professor I just talked about, she said, the only bad thing is I finished it. And so now I need book two. And I laughed, and again, had never considered writing a second book because, to be honest, I'd never thought I'd write a first book. But the other day I was sitting in the carpool line waiting to pick up my son, and that can take forever. And I was thinking about a couple of different things that had happened that day. And I started back with how I kind of started the first book. And I was jotting things down, more so because something that, upset me. I had my feelings hurt. I was mad. And so rather than just sit there and huff, get it out. And so I started writing. And when AJ, my son, when AJ got in the car after school, he goes, "Oh boy, we're already writing the second one." And I started dying laughing. And I said, "No, I'm not." And he goes, "You are, but it's good. You should. I'm happy. I'm proud of you."
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I think there will definitely be more writing because there's a whole lot more mess up here, Ginger, and in here that still needs to come out. So yeah, Hot Mess Express will definitely be back for version 2.
Excellent. Can't wait. So how did you balance sharing professional insight and personal experiences in your writing? And I know you said like you edited things out, but
Yeah.
how did you balance that?
So 2 things. Virtually no one in the book is named.
Sure.
Now, obviously, I published under my own name, so you can kind of figure out who different people are. But like the company, I didn't name anybody where I was working or anywhere I have worked.
Yeah.
I think what helped me was, and I was listening to an audiobook of Mel Robbins, and it's the one where she interviews, I don't know, 6 or 8 different women, or not women, people, individuals, about different life crises or where they are in their life and how they want to move forward or how can she help them move forward. And listening to that, there was a young lady on there, and she was way younger than I am. I think she was like 23 years old or something, half my age. But she said, "But I'm scared to talk about this because I know you're going to publicize it, and it's not all my story. Like, I don't want to badmouth somebody else or
Right.
whatever." And Mel Robbins told her, "But it's your story. You're not telling their story.
Right.
If they want to tell their story, they can tell their story, but we're here to hear your story." And so I took that and said, okay, so if it is part of how I got to who and what and where I am right now, then it's a relevant part of my story. And I will make sure that no one is thrown under the bus or, mislabeled or anything else, because I do genuinely believe that we all are where we are in our own journey. And I'm not here to cast shade on anybody. But that really helped free up my heart and my mind from the fear of upsetting somebody because I shared. Is somebody going to get angry? Is there going to be, negative feedback? Is somebody going to feel attacked? That's not at all what I wanted. I wanted to share my perception and my story and how maybe their actions or inactions, depending on the instance, kind of led me to where I am and who I am and how I am now. And so that was kind of my happy medium.
Yeah. So in our last chat, in our last episode, we talk about I've heard nurses say, "I'm just a nurse."
Mm,
We talk about how you just said you had some you're afraid of how, not maybe afraid, but you had some concerns about how people were going to react to this.
sure.
And so you could have played it safe.
Mhm.
You could have, named the book something totally
Yeah.
boring and bland.
Yep.
You could have named it like, you could have
Yeah.
lived your whole life playing it safe.
Hmm.
Why did you take some risks? And
Yeah.
I think that's an important concept for women. Why didn't you play it safe?
So when I decided, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm actually going to share this, I'm going to publish it, we're going to go all in. Um, the title, right? I knew there was innate risk in that.
Mhm.
Someone in a position of authority in an organization, the picture on the cover of the book, I have a potty mouth, and so I can manage that and be respectful. But in the book, it was my story, and I was talking like Allie, and so I talked like Allie in the book. And so knowing all of those things didn't necessarily line up with the Allie CEO in a box. I had to come to terms with, well, okay, so what am I going to do if this upsets somebody calls and is angry, or someone feels attacked, or I lose my job, or whatever comes of this that comes. And I think for me it was what I've always done, which is I sit there and I go, okay, the worst case scenario, what's the worst possible thing that can happen, and then how can I best prepare for the worst possible thing. And so I did everything in my power to be ready.
Mm,
You're never going to be ready for the real slap across the face review, or the person that comes up to you upset. But at the end of the day, I think in my mind, which is maybe not a sound way to go about it, but that's my approach, is that I've always thought, okay, what's the worst thing that could possibly happen? And when I talked to AJ about it, as a single mom, we make a lot of decisions. I'm the mom, I make the decisions. He's not my friend, he's my kid.
yeah,
But when I'm going to make a decision that could potentially have an enormous impact on our life,
yeah.
we talk about it. And so we sat down and I told him, hey, I think I'm going to publish this book. And the first thing he said was, what are we calling it? And I laughed and I said, well, I need to talk to you about that because you have a chapter and I want to make sure you're okay with what I share. And so we talked through it. He died laughing because he knew exactly what I was talking about and the instance when it occurred. And then he told me the best thing that anybody could ever tell you. And that is, I'm proud of you. And no matter what, I've got your back. And
Mm.
so sarcasm runs high over here. The last thing he said was, well, and it's good. I like ramen, mama. It'll be fine. So yeah, I mean, risk to me, if you don't take risk, you're going to have a very safe life. You're going to live in your little bubble. You're going to be maybe happy in your box, but you're always going to wonder what if.
Mhm.
And my approach to life has been to live it to the absolute fullest, so that if my deathbed is next month or next year or 20 or 50 or 80 years from now, I will not have that. I wish I had. If only I had tried. If only I'd come out of that little safe box. And like I said, my future is a little unknown right now, and I'm working through that. But I will say, and I'll say it again, man, do I feel free.
Yeah.
And for the first time being tied to only my own brand, I've worked for somebody else since I was 15 years old.
Mm.
So, yeah, a paycheck every 2 weeks and health insurance and a 401k, safe and really comfortable. But I wanted something else. I wanted more. I wanted a bigger sphere of influence. I wanted, women outside of my little hospital or my little, group of hospitals. I wanted to influence future leaders, men and women. And you can only do that so much when you work in a specific organization or in a specific facility, certainly. So yeah, excited and terrified and focusing on the excited.
So where can people find your book?
Absolutely. So initially, it was comical, but Amazon had I won't say censored it, but they had listed it as adult content. And so no one could find it. If you searched for it, you couldn't find it. So you had to have the link. Once we figured that out and were able to get that situated, you can literally find it on Amazon.com. It is available on Kindle, so you can get a paperback, a hard copy, or the Kindle electronic version. And you literally just go to Amazon.com. It's easiest if you click on Kindle or you click on books, but it's right there. And you named it, Airing Out Your Vagina, Being a Real Woman in an Unreal World. And hopefully Audible to come soon with yours truly.
Excellent. We're so excited to hear it.
Yeah.
We're excited to hear what's next in your next book. So happy to support that when it comes out. Thank you so much, Allie, for sharing with us and for spending time sharing your wisdom with our listeners. And we look forward to seeing your career growth.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it very, very much.
Thank you.